Good evening. I think you can hear me, Frank. Can you hear me? Oh, okay. Fantastic. So yeah, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Crypto Pulse Weekly. If you are on Instagram, you can join us on Instagram Live. You can otherwise join on YouTube Live or join the meeting invite on Zoom. Tonight, I just have one topic to, as I discussed earlier on. Season two is going to be a lot shorter, at least for the next 12 months. It's going to be a lot shorter, and the reason is very obvious. The market is down. As you probably have heard, many countries are going into recession. They're not going to talk about it until 2020 now, so you're not going to start hearing about it until 2023 January. In 2023 January, all of a sudden you start hearing that there is a recession and there is depression. Why is this important? Because there is a narrative that is being modeled, and that narrative is such that okay, the economies of the world are not doing well. As a result, we will need some sort of a recalibration of it or a reset. I've talked about this before, and I think I mentioned it twice this year. I mentioned it last year about the World Economic Forum and their plan for central bank digital currencies. Well, I'm happy to let you know that that plan is pretty much like 70% done now. The trials have been done in Europe, Asia, and the Americas, and the digital currencies they're now in the pilot completion stage. What that means is that very soon we will not be having paper money. That's what it means. Very soon we'll be converting from completely from paper money to I don't want to call it electronic money because we already have electronic money, but what we'll have is like digital money. And just to explain the concepts before we go any further, digital money is like blockchain money. What is blockchain money? Blockchain money is like a monetary system modeled on something like Bitcoin. So if you're familiar with Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, you understand that Bitcoin is the first example of blockchain modeled monetary system. And what that allows us to do is that for the first time in the history of mankind, we actually have an opportunity to democratize money. And I say this all the time because people don't understand how strong and how powerful this thing is that is going on right now. And because we are living in it, as I always say, we don't know the impact of what is happening to us. If you if somebody was in a car wreck, like a car crash, for instance, and all of a sudden they found themselves outside the car, and everybody's saying, "Oh, you're so lucky to have survived." Now, when the person was in the car crash, if you've ever been in the car crash, they probably have just had a bang and a blackout, and then boom, everything goes silent. And then, the next thing they know, they have people milling around them. Because they're in the car crash, they cannot see the gravity of what is happening. I was watching a video recently. I think it's about 3 weeks old of a gospel musician in Nigeria whose SUV ran into a truck on the motorway on the express, and the whole of the car was a write-off, and it was almost like a miracle that the passenger area was preserved both for the driver and himself and the person sitting in front. But anybody looking at that event from the outside will know that that was a very, very bad crash. Could have been a very fatal crash. But for them, the only thing they will have known is bank, and that was it. Aha, that was the only experience they could have, given you of that crash. So essentially, what I'm saying is, because we are living in this era where money is being democratized before our very eyes, we are not able to tell what is happening. Now, the people that are discerning and the people that know that we're gradually getting to an era where money becomes like knowledge, and it's now everybody can acquire knowledge, everybody can own knowledge, Just the same way, you can, if you want to acquire any knowledge now, you can go on the internet and you can get almost any knowledge. In the dark ages, as they would say, there's a period in between the 12th or 11th and the 15th century where they call dark ages, where number one, it was generally believed that Christianity was not preached, and there was a lot of darkness in the world. But more importantly, there was knowledge restriction, meaning that the only way you had access to knowledge was either you are royalty, you belong to the church or the Roman Catholic order, or you belong to a cult or a specific order where they had access to the knowledge and held custody of that knowledge. What that meant was that there were some basic things that we know today that people did not know back then. In the same way, exactly the same way, right now, monetary control is an instrument of the state to hold on to power. And that's why the people that control the money are the people that control the politics. But you'll never know, because for the most part, the people that control the money are not visible. The people that control the money have fronts that control the people that control the politics. So you can't get to the people that control the money because they're like puppeteers working on everybody and resetting and moving things around. Why am I going into this analogy? We need to understand that this recession is, at the end of the day, going to be a blessing and a curse. Why is it going to be a curse? It's going to be a curse because many people will feel that it's a bad period, and as a result, all I have to do is just let me just save my money. Let me just save my money. And you go with that perspective that this is a curse, this is a bad time, this is a period of travail, or this is a period of woe on human civilization. But if you understand that in every crisis there's an opportunity, and the reason I'm doing this broadcast is for people to realize that we're in the season of opportunity, whether you like it or not. We're in the season of opportunity, and many people will listen to the news, listen to what the mainstream media has to tell you, and will form their opinion based on that. Again, if you remember what I said about 2 statements ago, I said the people that control the money control the people that control the politics. If you switch that politics with the narrative, then you understand what I mean. The people that control the money control the people that control the narrative. The narrative right now is there is recession. So UK government today has just increased, they just reduced tax rates, done a number of economic intervention that has literally devalued the pounds. The US government on Wednesday increased the interest rate by another 0.75%. The implication of this, of course, is very straightforward. What it means is they are mopping up money from the system. You see, because the government holds monetary power, the government can turn the lever of the money. It's just like somebody sitting at the at the tap or the valve, controlling the flow of water to a particular set of people. You more or less control the lives of the people because you control the tap. That was a very funny example. It's one of these charity videos where a particular man, I think in either Kenya or one of those East African countries where they had a lot of reserve, because they had droughts, there were no water holes for the animals. So the guy would drive a water tanker like 30 miles into the savannah to pour water into their water hole so that the animals can drink. It didn't take the guy too long for the animals to realize that this is the guy with the water. So anytime the guy's tanker shows up, the animals are pulling up beside him, regardless of how wild they are, to drink water, because he's the guy that controls the tap. The same way, the people that control the money control the people that control the narrative. The narrative controls people's thoughts because the narrative projects ideas into your mind that forms your thoughts. Like we all know that our thoughts become our reasoning, they become our philosophy, and as a matter of fact, our thoughts can become our reality. Most people say, according to the law of attraction, that what you think about the most will eventually show up in your reality. So the reason why the media pushes a particular narrative is because they want it to be your reality. And if you hold on to that narrative for a while, that's exactly what you're going to start thinking about. And that's exactly what's going to show up in your environment. Why am I going philosophical on you all of a sudden? Just to explain myself. We've already been in recession since the second quarter, which is essentially since the end of July, end of June. But you will not hear any news media talk about any of the major economies being in recession. But we are already in recession. But it's not being talked about because the idea is that by next year, January, that's when the narrative is right for them to push and say, we're in a recession now, there's depression, and there will be all sorts of things that the government will do to excuse itself to get out of that recession. And one of that is increasing monetary control. You see, as long as the government controls the money, the government controls the citizenship. Just the same way in those medieval times, the people that held the knowledge essentially held everybody hostage. Understanding this and positioning accurately is going to help us in long-term planning. And I've said it a number of times that we usually box ourselves into planning for 12 weeks, 12 months, 6 months, 3 months. And that's the narrative as well, because there is nobody that said, there's no rule that says you need to plan for 12 months. Why not plan for 5 years? Why not plan for 3 years? Why just plan for 1 year? But we've been boxed into the narrative that we need to plan for 1 year. And because of that, many people make their plans stunted. And because they make their plans stunted, they're not able to achieve those things in a 12-month period. Why am I saying this? This recession essentially has started since middle of the year. We're not going to hear news about it significantly until January next year. By that time, January next year, if you are not already taking position and determining what you are going to do, you are going to be part of the narrative, shouting and talking to people that, oh, there's recession, things are hard. And before you know it, that is going to be the experience that you move around with. But if you understand that these are the seasons of opportunities and these are the seasons for positioning yourself for the next, for lack of a better word, for the next great bust. No, not bust. Boom. For the next great boom. Let me use that word. Now is a bust. For the next great boom, now it's time to position. In the world of crypto, which is why we're here tonight, there are cyclical behaviors that you see on the market, and these cyclical behaviors are based on an event called halving. I've talked about this many times. Many of you already know about it. The production rate of Bitcoin goes down at approximately every 3 to 4 years. When this goes down, it automatically generates an incentive for price increase, because it means that it's going to cost miners more in terms of electricity costs and computing power to produce more Bitcoin. Because it costs more to produce more Bitcoin, the price will automatically go up. Now, there is a skill, meaning that the price can go exceptionally up or the price can go exceptionally down, depending on market forces like what we have right now. So what we have right now is a situation where, please mute yourself if you're just joining. What we have right now is a situation where the equities market is being drained of funds. The reason the market is being drained of funds is because since 2000 and essentially we can say 2000 and actually since 2016 or 2015, the market has been pumped with money. And when COVID came, the government pumped more money than it has ever pumped in decades into the system. And it's basic demand and supply. If you have a bottle of Coke, for instance, and in that bottle of Coke, you take out half of it and you replace it with water, what you have is a bottle of Coke mixed with water. It's no longer Coke because it looks it begins to look like Lipton. If you dilute it again by half, you've reduced it to something else. So what exactly has been done because of COVID is that the government printed more money as a solution to a short-term problem, which was COVID. COVID was ravaging the world economy because they shut down the world economy. And for them to come out of it as politicians with the central bankers, they came up with the solution of printing more money. Now, depending on which country you are, there are various interventions. So I'll take US and UK as an example. In the US, what the government did was they printed 25% of money supply. So let's say the US up until 2020 January had 100 trillion in total number of US dollars in circulation. They printed 25 trillion in the space of 18 months. That's 25% of all the money that the United States government had in circulation. What that means is that all of a sudden everybody's money has dropped in value by like 25% because you've added 25% more to the circulating supply of money available. Depending again, the US, I mean UK government didn't do as much as that. UK government probably did UK government probably did like maybe like 10%. And if you go to Japan, if you go to Canada, the different countries did different things because they had to face with the problem of COVID. Now, in the UK, we had schemes like follow scheme, we had schemes like bounce back loan for entrepreneurs. We had two or three sets of loans for entrepreneurs and businesses. And what they did was it's almost like giving the banks a what do you call it? It's almost like giving the bank a blank check and says, you know, fill up this check with any amount of money for anybody that wants to borrow money from you. Whatever money they incur or whatever funds they borrow will guarantee you. In the 2007 2008 financial crisis, what they did was they gave the money directly to the banks. But what did the banks do? The bank took the money, settled their balance sheet and P&L, paid all their friends that they owed money to, and kept their mouth clean. So the bank sorted themselves and left, the common people in the cold. So what then happened was all of a sudden they realized that intervention, even though it helped the bank because then the banks became stable and they were able to start running the economy, it didn't really help the common man. So now they decided to go to the common man. That's why these people like US gave stimulus check to people directly. While that was a good and a better option because it gave the people the money directly, it created a set of unintended consequences. One of which was there was a lot of money in circulation. People suddenly realized that why are we working? Some people realize that I can invest this money. People started getting into all sorts of things, and what we have as a consequence of that now is inflation. They be shouting about inflation. When this problem started, just to remind you, in the middle of last year, in June last year, the IMF and the World Bank said inflation was not in the play. That even if there was any inflation, it was going to be transient. That it was going to be something very temporary, and that was going to be it. Now, inflation has come, and the only option the central bankers have is to continue to hike interest rates. To put this in simple terms, as long as the government continues to hike interest rates, the equities market will continue to fall. And that is what is happening to the price of cryptocurrencies and why the stock market is also in a very bad situation. So, from a standpoint of what do we do now? Because that's the next question. So, what do we do now? Simple. If you have one source of income, try to add one more to it. If you have two, try to add one more to the two that you have, because the ability to take position, and I'll use the word take position, the ability to take position over the next 16 months, 16 to 18 months will determine who will come out as a success story in the next 3 years. The next 12 to 18 months will be very bad, as you can see, will be very bad for the world economy, generally speaking. But the time to buy is when there's blood on the streets. For people that are into, if you're into stock, the time to buy, even though it's still going to probably still going to go down, the market's probably still going to go down till early next year. It's still the best time to buy, because after this time, what will happen is the government will come up. I mean, you have a lot of smart people that work for government. They will come up with an intervention that ensures that, okay, we think we've mopped up enough money, we've stabilized inflation. Now we need to recover because the economy will go into depression after going into recession for consecutive quarters. The economy will go into depression. If the economy goes into depression, people stop spending. When people stop spending, then banks stop lending money. When the banks stop lending money, there is pause in growth across board, and then it becomes a problem across board. So in the case of US, we use US as a case study. US cannot stop a rate hike at least until maybe one or two more quarters, because for them to achieve the level of damping they want on the economy, they need to apply at least either 1% or another 0.75%, once or twice more, before you can say that yes, the US economy has stabilized and there is no inflation. And the same thing applies. UK, for instance, is probably going to be in a worse state, because what they are doing is they're trying not to print more money now. What they're trying is they're trying to take a loan from the future, like everybody else does, and in that regard, devalue the currency. So technically, what US is doing by mopping up equities and strengthening the dollar, UK is doing by devaluing the currency. Technically, it's like a reverse engineering devaluation, but that's exactly what's happening. So how do you profit from this? It's very simple. Don't don't look at the day-to-day fluctuation in price, because if you do, you will not see in fact, not that you not see the picture, you will miss the big picture, which is why I started with the story of democratization of knowledge and democratization of money. The big picture here is democratization of money. That's what is at play. The reason there is so much chaos is because money is being democratized. If the world is still in existence in 300 or 400 years time, 2020s will be the season or the period that will be referred to as when the world changed forever, because it means that anybody can own their money. Before now, the king owns everybody, or the king owns all the money. In medieval times, when civilization came, the different empires started tussling about it, and until maybe the British Empire, when we sort of had a modern, quote unquote, modern civilization, money was largely commoditized. But now, because you have this fractional reserve banking, which is a very fancy word for government-induced Ponzi, the government is able to control the money, and that's why a country like US will go to any extent to find out where their citizens have money or have interest, because they want to control the money. And as I said earlier, the funny thing is that the government of the US is owned by some people who own the money originally. I don't want to go into the details of that, but think about it. Each of the governments, the people in politics, they have people that own them, or people on their payroll. That's why in the US you have people like lobbyists and all that. So the people that own them are the ones that determine the monetary policy. The people that determine the monetary policy are the guys that determine who eventually gets into position, and so can influence modification to the monetary policy. The same way Europe went into war for hundreds of years because of the democratization of knowledge, you can expect that there will be a lot of turbulence because of the democratization of money. What am I saying to you? This is the time to buy. The market is not looking good, and the market is not. I'm not going to kid you. The market is not going to look good for the next 6 months at the minimum. But this is the time to buy, because if you can't buy now, at the end of the day, you find out that opportunity is gone. By the next cycle, when probably the price of Bitcoin is in six figures, everybody will now start shouting, "No, the time it was 19,000, the time was 15,000, the time was 10,000." but that time will have been gone. So, in summary, this is the time to buy. And anytime for people that still have, that still look at their portfolio, anytime you look at your portfolio, just understand that this is the time to, even if it's $1, if it's $2, if it's 10 naira, if it's 5 naira, if it's £10, if it's £20, this is the time to buy. If you don't do crypto, if stocks is what you do, this is the time to buy. You might buy and the price will crash by half. What I'm saying is, this is the time to buy. This is not the time to save. Let me use that word. It's not the time to keep your money in the bank. I'm not a financial advisor, but I can tell you for free. The bank doesn't keep their own money in the bank. The bank does not keep your money in the bank. The bank takes your money and gives it out to other people that needs it. So why should you keep your money in the bank? If you don't know anything about crypto, just buy Bitcoin. If you don't know anything about crypto, buy Bitcoin or buy Ethereum or buy BNB, because those are the highest utility tokens in the crypto world. But understand that this is a golden opportunity. Before we are waking up and sleeping inside this golden opportunity, and it's not going to be here forever. I can tell you for free. There were a number of people that lived through the 2000.com era crash. The people that took position during those periods emerged from those periods as multimillionaires and billionaires, essentially. If you are a technocrat and you want to build stuff, this is the time to build as well. Because what is happening is the monies that have been in circulation all over the world since 2008 financial crisis, we've not really had an opportunity to reset it. The way the world economies are heading is pointing in that direction, that everything is going to get into a state of reset, and the survivors are going to be the winners. I think I would stop there for tonight. A number of news that I think is worthy of our attention is one that the Fed hike rates, the 0.75 Fed hike rates. Of course, I can share my screen on Zoom. You'll see the DXY chart has gone crazy. Hold on a second. Yeah, this is DXY. DXY is the US dollar index. It's gone crazy in the last few days, because anytime the Fed increases the rate, it strengthens the US dollar. So now what has happened was it plateaued around 110 for a very long time. Now it's gone to 113. So from a technical standpoint, 110 or even 109, is that 109? Yeah, 109 was supposed to be the peak. Was supposed to be the peak for US dollar and was supposed to take a correction. But because the market has not taken a correction from a technical standpoint, what it means is that there's what you call a breakout, meaning the price is going to continue to go up until the Feds stop rate hike. Like I said, from all the analysis I've seen, I think there will be two more rate hikes, at the minimum one, before they can stop. And why are they doing this rate hike? Just for the benefit of people who don't already know. When the Fed or the Central Bank of the United States increases the interest rate, what happens is the rate of borrowing grows up. Everybody's loans gathers more interest. 3, people rush to what you call fixed income, which are like government bonds. Government bonds are packaged and parceled debts that they sell to. That thing is really fraud, but I mean it's a very smart way to commit fraud. So what happens is bonds are packaged as investment products, and they say in investment time they say you are investing in the country's future, but really what you are doing is you are buying the country's debts with parcel on them. So it's a very well dressed and garnished government debt. That's what bonds are. But what makes it attractive is that because it's a guaranteed income, when you invest in bonds, you are getting fixed income, guaranteed. It's almost like sure money. It's money printing at a very large scale. It's money printing because it means that each time the government prints money, they'll give you your share. So people and institutions buy these government bonds. We have treasury bills, which are the shorter terms ones, and then you have the bonds and the very long term ones. Institutions buy this bond because it helps them to keep the value of their money and also to grow the money. But the value of the money is only as stable as the economy of the country that owns that money. So the reason the US is always fighting tooth and nail to make sure that their monetary policy is tight is because everybody is spending US dollars. The US is like the money printer of the world. Everybody settles most international transactions in dollars. So as long as the US dollar is strong, what it means is they have the opportunity to mop in funds from all over the world, technically speaking. To mop in from all over the world because everybody wants to get into government bonds. So the incurred debts that they already have on ground, when they issue the bonds, and institutions and governments all over the world buy those bonds, what they're doing is they're mopping up money from other people into their own economy. So it strengthens the position of the dollar and the US economy, by the way. But what it also means is that it discourages institutional investors and speculators from putting money in the stock markets. So when people talk to me and say, crypto is like a Ponzi, the whole financial system of the world is a massive Ponzi. Like, it's the most sophisticated Ponzi that ever existed. But the only thing is that there are all sorts of levers and buttons, controls, and dials on this particular system that it almost looks invincible, to be honest. So it looks like something that is real, but it's not real. Everything is a game, including the whole monetary system. And if you step back and understand that, then you won't take it personal. You just, understand how you want to play within that sphere and where you want to position yourself and how you want to maximize, the opportunities that present itself. So understanding that we're in that period where we need to, regardless of whether you've incurred losses, I have incurred losses. For instance, somebody was asking me about Luna. I've incurred losses in Luna as well, but it doesn't matter. Like Jade Rockefeller said, buy the blood. Even if the blood on the street is yours, you have to buy because when it's time to buy, it's time to buy. And if you don't buy when you need to buy, or like somebody said, if you don't buy when it's red, there's nothing to sell when it's green. Meaning, if you not buy now when everything is at a discount, then when they start pumping back money into the system and everything goes up again, there's nothing to sell. So my charge to you is take a step back. Like I told a friend of mine that, if you need to add one or two more side hustles, add one or two more side hustles. It doesn't kill anybody. But understand why you are doing it. You are doing it to take position because there is a global wealth transfer and transformation going on. And it will be a disaster if you're not part of it. Because if you're on this call, if you're listening to me right now, it means you have a level of knowledge that is above the person on the street. And the best way to capitalize is, give yourself 2 years or 3 years and say, let me give myself 3 years and let me invest £100 or $100, maybe every 2 months or every 3 months, depending on your financial status. Instead of using that $100 to go on a vacation, buy something. Because at the end of the day, when the market crashes, it's the people that are buying that will have the opportunity to buy at the discount. Because once the discount is done, the discount is done. In closing, there is a picture. No, there wasn't a picture. It was a video on, I think it was on TikTok. There were two women selling eggs. I think somebody was trying to explain how capitalism works. But really, is how the markets work and how, if you adopt the mindset of an investor, how you can capitalize on changes in the market. So there are two ladies selling crates of egg. One was selling hers for 150. The other lady was selling, I think, for 100. So what happened was The other lady found out that the lady that was selling one, somebody bought one from her. I think they were both 150 originally, so she flipped the price to 100 as a means of undercutting the competition. So the lady that was selling at 150 with the pair decided to buy out the person that was selling at a lower price. So she buys out the lady that was selling at a lower price at 100, adds to her own inventory. So there is no other seller in the market. Then she changes her price to 200, I think 200 or 300. But essentially, what it meant was she was ready to buy the buy the dip, as they say. And when there was no more dip to buy, she had more to sell. So I've talked about a lot of things tonight, but I think it was important for especially people that have been following my channel since 2020 understand that we're in this for a long haul, and if you adopt a short-term mentality, you are going to lose out. If you adopt a I don't want to use there's a mentality that is common to people, of Nigerian extraction, and that mentality is because we grew up and we developed in an environment that was quite labor, and because of the instability and nothing guaranteed for the future, everybody wants it now. If you don't want it now, it has to happen in 3 months. If it don't happen in 3 months, 6 months, it's not 6 months, 1 year. Everybody wants it now, and not realizing that every good thing takes time. Every good thing takes time, and we need to understand that. So, I mean, I've had people that discussed me during the boom period last year, like, how much am I going to get if I put money in this thing? How much am I going to get in 1 year? How much am I going to get in 6 months? I understand that people want to be able to cash in and cash out. It's almost like a speculator's mind, but take take a step back and understand that building wealth is not a cash out system. And that's why a lot of Ponzi make a lot of inroads in Nigeria. They come and tell people that if you put in 10,000, you see you'll be getting to 2,000 every month. And the guy calculates in his mind 2,000 every month. 5 months, I've doubled my money. In 10 months, I've doubled again. And because of that innate greed, almost invariably, every single time, you find out that those Ponzi succeed in places like Nigeria. And like I said, it's nobody's fault. The environment is unstable. Things are not guaranteed. You're not guaranteed tomorrow, quote unquote. But if you are no longer in environments, for instance, if you have Japad, as they say, then understand that you are in a more stable environment. And even if you're still in Nigeria, the fact that you're still alive means, you're probably above the elements. Understand that building wealth takes time. And if the intent in investing in crypto or in stock or anything is to build wealth, then you need to take a step back. I've had a lot of people talk to me and say, you know what, Dr. Demi, I lost money, I had to sell at a loss. Losing money is part of the game of wealth. But people don't want to hear that story. So people come on Instagram or come on, social media and talk about, how I was a nobody and I just expanded and I became successful. Or entrepreneurs, you hear stories of entrepreneurs and say, it was the last 100K I had, and I just from that 100K I built a multi-million dollar business. Understand that the story of success is 50% failure. In fact, it might be 50, 60%, might be more actually. But there is no success without failure. There is no gain without losses. In bodybuilding, they say there is no gain without pain. Pain is a loss, by the way. And in fact, in bodybuilding, before you can start gaining, you will first lose. Because when you start building muscles, for instance, within the muscle fibers, there is fats and there is glucose and there is water. When you start going hard at it, the first thing that takes the heat are the glucose, water, and fat in your muscles. So you first lose some weight in real sense of it. Then you start to gain. So understand that you can't make gains without making losses. I will close by, I've taken way more time today than I actually wanted to take. I'll close by quoting billionaire Femi Otedola, in a famous quote that said, people talk about how we've made money, but they don't talk about how we've also lost money. That the reason they call us billionaires is because we've lost hundreds of millions. The reason they can call you a millionaire is because you've lost hundreds of thousands. If you've not lost hundreds of thousands, you really can't qualify to be a millionaire. But if you've not lost hundreds of millions, you can't qualify to be a billionaire. So I know most of us here are working class or professionals trying to, establish ourselves, trying to achieve the American dream, or try to, retire early or try to achieve financial independence. But understand that in that journey, there is failure and there is success, and there is failure, and there is success, and there is failure, and there is success. I just understand that it's part of the process. Just understand that it's part of the process, because if you don't understand that it's part of the process, you will get discouraged and you will stop. And the only difference between the person that becomes a success story and the person that you never hear of is the fact that the success story continued to press on. So understanding that whilst the market might be bearish across board right now, this is your, I'm not going to say this is your only chance to make well, but I'm just saying this is your golden opportunity to build transgenerational wealth. QED. I'm not going to say more than that, but I don't know why I'm saying this, but I believe some people on the call that probably are, not happy with their portfolio and are thinking, maybe this whole thing was a wrong idea, or maybe this whole crypto thing was just a flash in the pan. I'm telling you for real, this has come to change the world. The world is never going to remain the same because of blockchain and digital assets. And anybody that decides to take a position and grab this opportunity with both hands in the next season that the world will get into, they will be the success stories. Nobody will remember your 50K that you lost with Luna, or 100,000 pounds that you lost with Luna, or 1 million that you lost with Luna. What people will remember is the success story. That guy made 1 million from, particular, but nobody remember the losses, because the gains more than compensates for the losses. I think that's where I'm going to stop. I'm not even going to go to the charts today, because this was not, by the way, this was not what I planned to do today, but I don't know how I just derailed completely. I started preaching about, the crypto world, but I just felt I need to reassure some people who probably joined at the peak of the bull run and currently discouraged. Understand that now is the time to take position, and now is the time to take a step back and understand that it's a marathon and it's not a sprint. And if you take that position, you will immediately understand that there's still a lot of headroom. There's still a lot of ways to grow. I'll stop now. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to take your questions. You can ask me any questions on Instagram or on Zoom. I will take your questions and I will answer them. I think we have about 15 minutes left before the hour. Any updates on Lunsi Lunsi Classic? Well, I think so. There's a question on Zoom that says any update on Lunsi or Luna Classic. For those who don't know, Luna Classic was the original Luna token that was there's a word there's a word in Yoruba that says Lano. That's the word that comes to my mind when I see Luna Classic. But let me just tell you what happened with Luna Classic. So Luna Classic was an algorithmic token that was tied to UST. UST was a stable coin that was driven by code. However, the problem then was that part of the ecosystem that drives the issuance of Luna with the stablecoin was also involved in providing an investment platform that gives people, I think, 16% APY. Now, because the three of them were tied together, the protocol that was issuing 15% APY and Luna and UST, there was technical vulnerability. And as a matter of fact, in the crypto world, that vulnerability had been talked about months, like 6, 7 months before that Luna crash. That people are talking about that. It was a black swan impossible event that you had to have a set of conditions line up side by side before you could see that vulnerability materialize. But that's exactly what happened to Luna. People started dumping on the price of UST, then they started dumping on the price of Luna. And because it was tied together by code, what was happening was that the smart contract that was managing the production of Luna just started issuing more Luna to meet up with the demand of selling UST, and then Luna became a shitcoin, as they would say. So for Luna to come back, they will first of all have to burn all the Luna that showed up during that epic downfall of UST. If they can't do that, then of course that there is no way Luna is going to come back. You have another one that is being created that is supposed to replace the Luna's LUNC. That's probably going to be like they're pumped. I know the guys will try to come back, but it can't be as the same. In other words, Tolu, only put money you can afford to lose in Luna. See, that's the short answer. Second question: are we expecting more Ethereum dump due to the merge? Why is there dump after Ethereum merge? Well, I'll answer the question again. I answered it last week. I was telling you last week that technically speaking, Ethereum and Bitcoin. I wasn't going to share the chat, but now that you've brought the question, so I have to share my chats. I was saying last week that Ethereum and Bitcoin were in a technical downward trend that doesn't look like it has reached the end, quote and unquote, of the road yet. So the downward trend doesn't seem to have gotten to the end technically. And what I was saying on Ethereum chat then was that, in fact, I don't think it was even on Ethereum. I think it was on the Bitcoin. Yeah, it was on the Ethereum daily chat. So I was saying that at the minimum, Ethereum needs to get to 1,000, or on a weekly chart, worst case scenario, it needs to get to $477.98. At that price, Ethereum definitely, at that price, there will be a reversal. Definitely there will be a reversal, because that's the technical level. And that technical level was set, in fact, was originally set when? It was originally set in 2017. So at that price, there will be a bounce. Why is it dumping? Very simple. Like I said last week, there's a phenomenon called buy the rumor, sell the news. So for instance, the Ethereum merge has been new since last year. Since last year was the EIP upgrade that happened last year, was supposed to come with the merge, in which you're supposed to change the proof of stake. It didn't happen last year. Then they started talking about it this year. So in anticipation of that, the price of Ethereum, of course, went up and pumped as high as I think 2,000 from 890 or thereabouts. So because the anticipation has built up to that time, market makers, meaning institutions and the people that deal in large volumes of these commodities, will have bought before everybody else. So when everybody is waking up and coming to the market, Ethereum is proof of stake now, they just start selling their stake because they've accumulated while everybody was watching. Which is why I was telling you about buying when things don't look rosy, because that's the time the big boys are buying. So are we expecting more Ethereum? Definitely we're expecting more Ethereum. I will not touch Ethereum until it gets to $500 personally. I will not touch Ethereum until it gets to $500 because I think that's the given what is happening in the macro environment, meaning the stock market is not improving, equities market is crashing, countries are going into recession. I expect that the market will continue to tank, and as the market continues to tank, the technical level for Ethereum is $470. At $470, Ethereum is a good buy because what it means, let me put in perspective for you. Ethereum at, let's even say $500. Ethereum at $500 means that for it to go back to all-time high, you are close to a 10x on your investment. So if you bought Ethereum, one Ethereum at 500, by the time it goes back to the peak of the last bull run top, it means you've done 10x on your investments. And that's why I say the best buying price for Ethereum is anything around 500. For Bitcoin, anything around, where is that? I think, where's my weekly chart again? Anything around 10,000. It might not stay there, like I said. It might be a flash crash, like we had during COVID when the price just went down to 3,900 and went back. It might be a flash crash, but definitely that's the technical point at which the price will start to consolidate and try to gather momentum back upward. So I think I've answered the two questions. I think those are the only questions that people have asked today. In the absence of none, I'm happy to.
Sorry, Dr. David.
Good evening, Doc. What else, sir?
Anyway.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I ask question as regards the Lonsi. Like, just declare that they are not going to join the on-chain Bonnie, 1.2% Bonnie, and because of that, the thing tanked like 10% within few minutes. Now, I'm thinking that like rebase it, like maybe cancel some zero and all those things. Why begging people up and down to burn 1.2% for every stock? Criteria for rebasing and criteria to go in the way they wanted. I had your saying about it that they need to clear those excess they got.
Yeah.
I don't think they can make headway because all the exchanges, they are backing out gradually because most the CSI said people will not trade again if they will just abandon them if whatever they are transacting. So I don't know. Maybe there are some reason. Situation where to reduce the circulatory supply of a particular token. Thank you.
Okay. There are technical remedies that they can apply. One of them is to do a token swap, meaning for every token you have, it will just fractionalize that token by a fraction of 10 raised to power 6 or 10 raised to power 8. It will drop the number of the token value significantly. It's an artificial fix, but it gives some very good optics for tokenomics. They could do that. They could mop up the existing excess that they have, or they could forget about it completely. I think the reason why people are still giving them some audience is because a lot of people invested money in Luna, massive amount of money. I invested a lot of money in Luna as well, and because of the loss, people are still sentimentally attached to the ecosystem and think that we can still rise out of the rubble. Personally, if it's not working, it's not working. Luna has dumped, and of course it has failed. I understand that the guy is being charged to court in Korea right now. They're trying to jail him, but it doesn't bring back the losses that were incurred. So my advice to anyone is, there are other ecosystems. That are probably going to give people better returns for their money and their time than the Luna ecosystem. There is a breach of trust, by the way. There's a breach of trust because the ecosystem has failed. So even if they come up with another product, they're not going to get the traction that they used to have, unfortunately.
Okay.
And I think the guys knew that these things was going to happen, and that was why they started buying Bitcoin, but it was too late. You see, the time they should have been buying Bitcoin was when it was originally that vulnerability was originally raised, which was about October, November in 2021. If they had started to buy at that time and possibly reduced the amount that their DeFi staking was producing as yields, it would have been better, because what it would have meant was that they would have had some, real life backup in terms of collateral. But the only collateral they had was the Luna token. So as the UST was being dumped on exchanges and Luna was being dumped, they got there. I mean, and it wasn't something they could manually control. Well, they could manually control it, but they didn't manually control it. They left it to algorithm. Algorithm was behaving to spec and just issuing out Luna anyhow. So for me, I wouldn't advise anyone to waste their time. It's like I said, if you're interested in our 2-year program cohort, please let me know. We have tokens that will perform better than Luna over the next 2 years. Somebody asked me about Vase token. There are too many tokens now. I don't worry myself about these tokens. The only ones I worry myself about are the ones that I know that are venture capital backed, and I know the founders, or I know people that know the founders. Otherwise, I don't worry myself. If you're interested and you're on the WhatsApp, just PM me. I'll tell you when we're going to start. But it's basically just having a course, we draw out a plan together and hold ourselves accountable. Of course, it will cost you, but it's to give you an accountability framework to build a long-term plan that works and that takes you away from the volatilities of the market. Because as long as you keep your eye on the volatilities of the market, of course, you will get emotional. I can tell you that as a trader. the only way you can get yourself away from emotions if you have a strategy that you're locked into and you're committed and accountable to. So Tolu, you asked about Vase token. I'll find out about it. I don't know about it, but there are a lot of tokens going around. I do know some projects that are doing what do you call, they are doing crowdfunding through affiliate projects, affiliate marketing, and they provide yields. Some of them have use cases that they are building on. So the way they're building on, like there's one I know that what they're doing is they have an exchange, token, they have another token that's an investment token, and what they're doing is they're using the investment token and the affiliate network to build the community around the exchange and the token itself as a way to drive utility. In the long run, it will work, because as long as people are using that ecosystem, there's going to be a lot of volume. And that's exactly why, for instance, Luna was a huge success before it crashed. They had a very successful DeFi yielding program. I was giving 16%. No bank can give you 16% in the Western world. So they were very successful with that. And as a matter of fact, because the Luna tokens issuance was only based on UST, it worked fine. It worked very fine. So there are projects like that, but I'm not announcing that to anyone, because you have to be accountable. You have to be able to hold you accountable if you are getting into such projects. So it's not something I will discuss either on Instagram Live or YouTube. But there are projects like that provide decent passive income even in these bear markets. So that's that for now. If there are no other questions, I think it's a good time to call it a day. Hope you have a nice weekend, everyone. I'll see you again next week, and have a lovely weekend.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, bye.